Over this time I have a few free minutes, I find that I'm reading detective stories. And as I'm reading detective stories, which I kind of love, I've noticed that the detectives are like scientists and doctors. You see, they're given a problem, in this case, some kind of crime. They have to collect clues, evidence, and at the end, they make a claim. They say, okay, who did it? Well, scientists, biologists are the same way. They get excited about some kind of problem. They go and do an experiment to collect data, and then they make sort of an idea and they say, okay, here's my idea, here's my claim, and here's my evidence. And so doctors, they kind of do the same thing. You walk into a doctor's office, you have something you have. I have a question, why am I sick? And they ask you questions, they collect evidence, and they make a claim, they make a diagnosis. So I thought today we would become biodetectives and we would take you to digital medical school. So congratulations, you're now in digital medical school. And so this is a picture in the early 1900s of how doctors would learn. As you can see, it's just one giant amphitheater and the patient's there on the bed, and most likely they didn't have anesthesia during the operations, but this is how they learned. All right, so let's begin. Our story begins in 1904 in Chicago, and this is a picture of the actual hospital. And a 20-year-old male African American student walks in with the following symptoms. He's 20 years old. He feels weak. He has heart palpitations. And he's short of breath. Now, the heart palpitations is that thumping of your heart, in your chest when you do a really quick exercise, or if you're running really fast and you feel that heart thumping in your chest. That's called heart palpitations. And he's short of breath. So it's almost as if he sort of ran a marathon to get to the hospital. But when we asked, he said he was not exercising. Interesting. So you know how you go to the doctor's office, the first thing they do is they have that giant folder and they ask you, so how are you here? Why are you here? And so that's called your patient's history. So we ask some questions and see what's happening. So over the last several years, he reports he's doing less physical activities. 3 years ago, he's had an ear infection that lasted about 6 months, and there was stuff coming out of his ears. So that's a really bad infection. We'll make a note of that. And since childhood, he's had sores on his legs that were slow to heal. Okay, so far so good. We asked him, so where'd you grow up? And he said he kind of grew up in the tropics. Let's make a note of that. All right, so now the doctor comes in and, they do this physical exam. And so now they're going to kind of, do all the things that all doctors do. So they make a note about who he is. He's well developed physically and he seems intelligent. He has a tinge of yellow in the whites of his eyes. Okay, so the whites of his eyes are yellow, so that really indicates a problem in the liver. We'll make a note of that. The visible mucous membranes, so that's the nose, the ears, the mouth. You know how the doctor says, and looks in your nose, and then looks in your ear, hopefully in that order, doesn't go ear, nose, and then mouth, is pale. In reality, they should look pink. His lymph nodes, those are the swollen glands under your armpits or right at your neck. They're swollen, so when they feel them, they feel like little lumps. So that indicates to us he has an infection. So I better make a note of that. Okay, so now we kind of bring out that stethoscope. And we notice on his legs and thighs, he has about 20 scars. And our patient reports that he's had them since childhood, and they just take a long time to heal. So as I was taking out my stethoscope, we're going to listen to the heart sounds. Okay, so your heart should sound like this.
Healthy heartbeats, it makes a lub-dub sound. The first.
So let's do that one more time. It's a lub-dub sound.
Healthy heartbeats, it makes a lub-dub sound. The first.
So, our patient's heart, though, actually is enlarged. So that means his heart is actually swollen. And when we listen to his heart, he has something called a heart murmur.
Reverse direction, the murmur is best heard not in the aortic area but rather along the left sternal border. It peaks at the beginning of diastole when the pressure difference is highest, then rapidly decreases as the equilibrium is reached.
So his heart has that lub-fa, lub-fa, lub-fa. So that means the blood is flowing backwards into the heart. That's not good. Make a note of that. Now it seems like it was beating really fast. Remember, came in with heart palpitations, but he has no history of ingestion or strong stimulants or drug use. So it's like he had a giant cup of coffee, but he said he never had a cup of coffee, and his heart's racing. All right, so that's not good. So we're going to pause right here, and now I'd like you to do is answer the question in the Google form.